Hello everyone, you're welcome to this edition of The Insight. I am Babla Jonathan. He's one of the traditional leaders in the crisis-stricken northwest region of the Republic of Cameroon who've been in their palaces with their people despite the security instability and volatile situation prevailing across the northwest and southwest regions of the country for over 7 years now. He is a peace crusader. He is the traditional leader of a community of 41 quarters, host of the University of Bamenda. His Majesty Ifo AFUNGCHWI III has been the fawn of Bambili since 2019. And in this edition of The Insight, we are zooming in on Bambili in the midst of a turbulent region, a crisis-stricken northwest region. We're also looking at the traditional administration and peace across the board. Meet our guest in some few seconds. Thank you for staying with us. His Majesty Ifo AFUNGCHWI III, Fawn of Bambili, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Mr. Babila.
You're welcome to Douala.
Thank you very much.
You are visiting your people in Douala, and this is the first time since you were enthroned as the Fawn of Bambili in 2019.
That's the truth. But before I begin, I have to congratulate you, Mr. Babila, and the management of Equinoxe. In fact, it's one of those TV stations which are highly favored by Cameroonians, and I'm a fan for Equinoxe. You are doing a marvelous job. Congratulations, and carry my words of congratulations to the management of Equinoxe.
Thank you very much, Your Majesty.
Yes, I've been on the throne, as you rightly said, since 2019. Barely 4 years and few months. In fact, on the throne, I came up at a time where you know what is going on in the two Anglophone zones. The social unrest, which up to this moment is timidly dying down. But at that moment which I came on the throne, that was the climax. And to your greatest surprise, I've never spent a night out of my palace, because I identify myself with my people, identify myself with the problems of my people. If I want to die for my people, I remain with them, condole with them, see with them, sympathize with them, talk to them, dialogue with them. And that is the simple way I'm managing my village.
You're going to tell us a little more about how you've been able to stay in your palace while some of your peers, some other traditional leaders have been out of their palaces, and some of them are in Yaoundé, some are out of the country, and so on. You tell us a little more about that shortly. But first of all, tell us, how is Bambili today?
I must first of all thank God. It is not the strength of AFUNGCHWI with its notables and the quarter heads. God is fighting our sacred battles, because the problems in Bambili are not different from the other villages. But I want to tell you, from the inception, creation of Bambili is a peaceful, loving land. The ancestors planted that peace in Bambili, and no matter what it is, even if the enemies are stronger, but they can never be above the strength of the ancestors of that land. At the moment, there's peace, there's serenity, calmness, and we are marching on with our activities in the village. As compared before, people timidly who abandoned the village and went because of the social unrest, they are gradually coming back. And this is one of the main missions for me here in Douala. Encourage my people. Because of this social unrest, farmers abandon their land, petty traders abandon their place, and find themselves in these big towns in Cameroon. But I bet you go around and see their condition of living unbearable. When I'm in the palace, I feel uncomfortable like a father. This is one of the missions. I want to come back and encourage them. If things are not moving, come back and let's go back to our soil. Because most of my people are peasant farmers. And that is where our strength is. We want to apply the policy of the head of state who encourages agriculture. That's where my bulk of my people concentrate. And if you look at back, The schools that the government has given back to us, they need food. We must go back to the soil. So I've come back to encourage my people who were farmers, tappers, to come back. Let's put our hands together and see where we can take Bambili to the original state in which they were before the crisis.
Earlier you indicated rightly that you came upon the throne at the peak of the socio-political and security tensions in the northwest and southwest regions of the country. How has this situation affected the people of Bambili? What are the major impacts that the security tensions have had on the people, on culture, on every other aspect of life in the Bambili community?
It tore my people apart. Hate speech, blackmail, lies telling, torture. Those who could not resist, they have to leave and find refuge elsewhere. And within that period, it was hell. Not everybody have the means to leave the village and come like others who are here in Douala or Yaoundé or elsewhere, Equatorial Guinea. But those who remain in the village, that's where I identify myself with them. It came, in fact, tall. In fact, we had a rich culture. This thing has destroyed. We'll finally come back, but it will take time. People don't longer respect even their mother who gave birth. We went terrible torture, frustration, their mindset was worn off. No longer allegiance, no respect to the socio-cultural richness of the village. As I've said, Bambili was planted in a gutter of gold. I owe my people a lot of respect because despite everything, they obey their phone. They listen to their phone. They condone their phone. And those who were with me, especially my quarter heads, the heads of organs that have traveled them here in Douala, will work in a synergy to re-establish where Bambili is now, a peace-loving village. Everything was destroyed. Artifacts, monuments, and things that we could identify ourselves. Because you lost identity, you cannot be found. Those things were destroyed. I've also come to launch an appeal to my children. Let's see how we can acquire those things and bring back our culture. So Bambili should stand like one of those villages who has a rich culture in Northwest.
Extending out of Bambili to the rest of the Northwest region, which has been one of the regions in Cameroon where the traditional authorities, the traditional administration are still respected. This crisis brought some kind of disregard for the traditional authorities. We've seen, if we extend even to the Southwest region, chiefs being kidnapped and killed, and this looks like a situation where there was practically no regard for the traditional administration, for the traditional authority.
When I mentioned that this social unrest brought a lot of hardship, not only to individuals, but to the village, entire village. Before, a traditional ruler was looked upon like a monument in the village where nobody can even go 1 meter nearer. And it is the common adage that we know, the phone is never wrong. Because if the phone is wrong, I mean the entire village is wrong. So whereas the phone says this, the village have to abide and dance to the rhythm. And that is where we have lost our dignity. We have lost that aspect of a traditional ruler in Northwest. I told you, phones were kept down, captured and taken to bush. Some come right in the inner part of the palaces and hunt the phones. It was an epidemic where I cannot actually say where does this thing originated. And it's a thing that we, the traditional rulers, we need to reason beyond. and say we can do some cleansing from our sons and daughters. Till I'm talking, my colleagues are unable to come back to their palaces. And this thing started, it escalated from village to village, depending on how the traditional ruler and his elites were able to contain it. But if we're unable to contain it, you only need to abandon and find a refuge somewhere. So this now brought the issue of many of my colleagues were up to this moment. Northwest, you know Babylon, how many funds are in there? Resident. We have done everything. But I bet you we need to do a national cleansing from the sons and daughters from this Anglophone region. Because what they have committed, especially towards the traditional rulers, I bet you the gods of these two Anglophone need to wake up. Let's return the children to come back to their normal senses.
Right. Now, in Bambili, there seems to be a kind of special bond between the people, the subjects, and their traditional ruler. And that's why earlier you said that your people have been able to bring down the tensions and restore some relative peace in the community. Tell us about this bond, this understanding, this closeness between the traditional authority that you are and your subjects.
I told you Bambili was founded on a land of love. The ancestors who founded that land, they planted it. It was a mustard seed that is growing year in. Every fall that comes and passes, it remains. Nobody can pull it off. And this bond is found from the ancestors. We thank God that those of us who are existing in Bambili, we have been trying to sustain it so that it should not go off hands. Despite all the odds, we do everything to keep it. And that is why you see me in Douala is to come back again and remind my subjects in Douala this bond that came from origin, it should be reinstated. What are there? That love across the board, that honesty, that fear of God, that sustainability of our tradition and culture, that respect of your elder, respect of your phone, that hard work, respect of the institution, especially those of the state. You know the position of Bambili in Northwest. And I want to take this opportunity to thank the government, His Excellency Paul Biya and his government. If you can think of the schools which have been planted in Bambili, right from the 40s, if you trace the history, the university coming to Northwest and implanted in Bambili is not the work of the present day politicians. It's something which had long been done. But it takes time. God has a destiny, everybody, but you can only delay. So university came to add what? The economy, the Technical College of Agriculture, the Regional College of Agriculture. Those institutions are planted there. If you are a Bambili, we will not fight for peace. And in Bambili, you cannot play with the word of God. We don't joke. We have more than 15 priests. We didn't fight for it. We didn't go to fight the Rome. We didn't fight bishop. They come naturally. Last year, I ordained 3 priests from one village. And Presbyterian has about 4 pastors. More are still struggling to go. And you see church going in Bambili, we embrace Christ. And when we're in difficulty, we surrender ourselves to God, and you see things normally taking their right position.
From what you're saying, it can be deduced, it can be concluded rightly that Bambili is blessed, but there is still more that, globally speaking, indigenous of the Northwest and Southwest regions are demanding for, and you're saying that the people of Bambili should not fight the government. Of course, it has been said over and over that even if there is a request to make, even if there is more to ask for, it's not the gun that should be used to ask for whatever whoever is asking for. Is that what you're saying?
That's just exactly what I'm saying. The problems are there. Nobody has refused. But gun will not solve us, not give us solution to the problems. It will not. That is not the best approach for me. I stand for it. I stand for peace. I stand for dialogue. I stand for facing squarely, approach the authorities who are there and lay your problems frankly and clearly. Guns is the last thing, and we have seen the results. How many souls have we lost? The working population for these two regions, shall we ever replace them? Shall we ever replace them? So I stand like one of those architects for peace, dialogue, love.
You have received a reward for your peace crusading. Now tell us, Your Majesty, how you've managed to be in your palace despite the volatile situation prevailing across the region, sending some of your peers out of the palaces, out of the region to seek refuge elsewhere. But you have been in your palace for all this while, even though you came in at the peak of the conflict. How have you been managing to stay in your palace?
Okay, thank you, Babla. Let me take the opportunities to thank the Guardian Post. I don't know what criteria they used. You're a journalist. They just called my name one day and said I'm one of those peace crusaders and I should receive an award, and they gave me the award. It was a pleasant surprise to me, because you, the journalist, you know the way you judge. Being in the palace, I've already said, it's no magic. We saw where our children got annoyed with the government. That's the truth. The problems are there. But then, I will not give birth to children and disown them. No matter what they're angry, I have to side with them. Only use a way like a father to appease them, talk to them, sympathize with them, and say, where is the way forward? What can we do? I say, why crying? Don't remain on one spot. Keep on moving. What do you mean by keep on moving? While you are crying for the government, your problems to the government, you as an individual, what are you doing to help yourself? The soil is there to till. Other businesses are there. Go to school and learn. Get the certificate. Even the job is not there, hold the certificate. Don't be like a hunter. You go to a hunting, say, no elephant will come to me. You go and stand, the thing is coming, you start regretting why you left your spear. Go to school, acquire the education. Education is not only to get a certificate and get employment. Educate your mind and say, if plan A doesn't work, what do I do? If the government doesn't employ me, what do I do? God has given me the hands, has given me the sense, has given me gone to school. What can I do to help improve on my economic situation? I now learn on plan B. Life will keep on going.
All right, Your Majesty, I want to be sure that we are getting exactly what you're thinking, what you're saying, your thoughts, the way they are. You said earlier that when your children are angry, you have to take side with them. That could be interpreted as some kind of collaboration with those of your subjects, even as a traditional ruler, even subjects of other villages can also be considered as your children who are asking for independence, asking for cessation. That could, when you say you're taking side with your children who are angry, that could be interpreted as some kind of collaboration with those who are asking for those things.
Taking side does not mean that you should take up arms. Taking side is saying, I sympathize with what they are terrible, that they are getting annoyed. And that's what I'm saying, that while crying, don't be on the spot. Keep on moving. While you're asking the government should do this, if the government doesn't do, what will you do? Think of plan B go to farm, go to school, think of a trade. Don't only wait for the government, but to say, knowing the consequences of taking up arms, that's the most dangerous thing that I can tell my children to do. And I'm taking side, I sympathize with them what they are crying, but I dialogue with them. Don't cry and stay on one spot. What is the alternative if the government doesn't do like this? Should we excommunicate and disown our identity like Cameroonians? And when will this end? Where will you begin? Where will you end? So we still remain sons and daughters of Bambili in Bambili land. We have our soil to till. Let's not think and get ourselves to the devils that they can come here and derail us.
Right. Your Majesty, I asked this question because we've heard some administrative authorities accusing traditional leaders of standing or supporting cessationists and cessation. We heard some administrative authorities say this time and again, pointing accusing fingers on traditional authorities.
Babila, I was the first victim that the government attacked. They got into my palace. First thing, your colleagues have abandoned their palaces and gone. When you remain here, it means that you are condoling with these children. And I can only tell you the grace of God can explain how I escaped from them. But that did not frighten me to abandon my village. But then, what should I do? You just need to make your intention known. When I was invited, when I explained, give me time. At that time, I had not even met up 3 weeks in my palace. I was not even traditionally enthroned. I was still under grief. I was immediately accused that me staying in my palace. Around that time, the whole of Mesa, you could not count 1 food. Means that I'm condoning these people. It is me. I'm doing this. I was misinterpreted. So if the administration are also going up that way, and that is where I condemn, because there's no dialogue. It's no brutality. Brutality is not only from my own children. Government too. Don't only see anybody and attack. Don't only see anyone who is in his palace, you start accusing him. That was where this thing started. Most of my colleagues even abandoned their palaces. Because both fronts, the separatists and the government. But it needs courage. It needs a good intention that you have. God will help you. And that is why I remain in my palace. When I was narrowly missed from them, but they finally discovered my intention of what is it. They just lack a way to send me a words of encouragement. I started dialoguing with my children, telling them, those of them were also pick up arms. Talking like a father to children who are desperate. And the children understood. You can count few Bambilis who are still in the bushes. But I have not given up. I keep on pleading to their relatives. Please, leave that thing, come and meet me in the palace. Let's join our hands together and develop our land. They're gradually living. I cannot count 1 or 2, 3 who are still there. So that issue of government accusing the fund, very clear. If you had the opportunity to interview 10 funds, to tell that 8 have left their place because of what you are telling me. So this dialogue is not only one side. Let the government to equally dialogue with the traditional ruler and work hand in gloves with us. Whatever thing we're fighting for these children, we're fighting equally for the peace which the head of state is crying every day. And I like it because the head of state in one of his speeches said, let traditional rulers and parents remove these children from bushes and talk to them. That is what encouraged me. The head of state launched that appeal. And if any traditional ruler heard what the head of state cried and started applying the beat, would have been penetrating this our children and talking things for them to see.
Now we'll go to the newsstands and we'll take a look at what the newspapers reported this week. The press review. The Post reports the suspension of salaries of over 200 teachers in the Northwest region by government over unjustified absences. According to the Herald Tribune, lawlessness is rife in the country's Northwest regional capital, Bamenda. It is now described in pidgin as "water don dirty, all man fit catch fish." On the front page of the Guardian Post, the Cameroon Development Corporation goes offensive on those encroaching on the corporation's land. The Ultimate reports that Minister Elung Paul is putting President Paul Biya's import substitution policy to practice by offering a consignment of food processing machines to women groups in the Kupe Manenguba division to boost production and improve livelihoods. Cameroon Echoes tells its readers that the Mundemba Council has embarked on infrastructural development with the construction of a new council chambers and the execution of other community development projects ongoing. The Voice amplifies the United Democratic Party chairman Lawan Bako's alarm. He says anticipated presidential election will be a costly misstep for President Paul Biya. The Guardian Post reports that, fed up with the Biya regime, the Grand Nord throws weight behind Gibai Gatama, saying the leader of the 10 Million de Nordiste movement, who doubles as the publisher of Le Dusail newspaper, is the only hope in the 2025 presidential election to redeem Northerners of neglect and unfulfilled promises from the Cameroon People's Democratic Movement (CPDM) government. The Sun: successful takeoff of the FENASCO A Games in Limbe. Nalova harps on discipline. As reported by The Sun, the population widely acclaimed Secondary Education Minister Professor Pauline Nalova Lyonga for her courageous leadership and also hailed Southwest Governor Benau Kalia Bilai and Limbe City Mayor Paul Efumengale. On the front page of the Guardian Post, Barrister Kere Muna gets another prestigious international role as Goodwill Ambassador for African Legal Support Facility. Municipal updates highlight the call for unity in the church by the moderator of the Presbyterian Church in Cameroon (PCC) during the All Pastors Retreat. On the appointment of the Indomitable Lion's new technical staff, The Voice Weekender says Sports Minister overrides and Eto Wales. In the same vein, the Guardian Post projects Cameroon's obsession with hiring trainers without national team coaching experience. Claude Leroy, Wilfred Schaeffer, Thierry Lechant, Hugo Bros, Antonio Conceição, and now Marc Brice is at the center of the dispute between Sports Minister Professor Narcisse Moele Kambi and the Cameroon Football Federation, as reported by the Post Weekender. And the Median points to FECAFOOT President Samuel Etofi's rejection of the minister's decision and evokes blatant illegality. Cameroon Tribune calls all that unnecessary polemic. You're welcome back. We are still with our guest, His Majesty Ifo AFUNGCHWI III of Bambili. Now, Your Majesty, earlier you said that the government has to implicate the traditional rulers, or government has to enhance the implication of the traditional rulers in the peace process of the country, as far as the northwest and southwest regions of the country. What more? Because we have been seeing the Prime Minister came to Bamenda, invited traditional rulers. There have been some kind of consultations with the traditional rulers. What more should be done to get the traditional rulers really talking to the people? Because from what you're saying now, the people listen to you even more than they listen to the head of state, because the head of state has also been calling on them to drop their guns. But many only did so, particularly in your community, after listening to you. It means that the traditional rulers can really do pretty much in terms of resolving all these issues.
Yes, the government, in writing, the traditional rulers are auxiliary of the government. It is true. It is true that some of the traditional rulers have a pay package. But how much is it? Some of our palaces have been destroyed. My colleagues don't even have a means to come back. Stay where? Those of them who are present Our children accuse us that we're dancing to the rhythm of the government. There is no phone who can survive in his palace if elites don't come to his help. I inherited how many children from my father? They're still in primary school. How many wives? How do I cope with them? That sometimes the government should even look at those funds who have resisted and remain in their palace. Encourage the funds. My colleagues also see and try to go back in order to benefit from such largesse of the government. Come to our palaces and help. Those aquifers have been destroyed. The present funds, they don't have the means. The elites find it difficult to come to the help of the funds. So if the government can identify and begin the funds who have resisted and they're in their palaces, how can the government encourage us to fight the hardship?
And also to get closer to the people and talk to them, because you speaking to your subjects from your palace in Bambili is different from another phone speaking to his people, maybe from Yaoundé, from the United States, and so on.
Voila. So we have resisted and struggled to identify ourselves, as I told you, with my people. But government should not take it as a right. The problems of Bambili are not the same like the problem of a phone in Cambe or elsewhere. Government should peruse these problems and see, not only to sit and say, let the funds go back to their palaces. It's not easy. It's not easy. So they should see how they can come to our help. And come and see the condition in which the funds are even staying. I thank God I was blessed with my sons and daughters who one time, sometime, they come to my help. Can I even be able to keep the children that my late father left for me? From nursery, primary, high school. Everybody looks on me. In the village, this unrest. There are orphans in the village. They only rush to the palace. There are IDPs. Those who don't even know where they come from, don't even know their daily. Every morning they rush to the palace and cry. Because in the Northwest, by tradition, if you are standing somewhere, go to any palace. And identify, because all children are palace children. How do I cope with these children? Only by the grace of God. And I've said, I owe a lot of tribute to my few elites who are constantly, and this is one of the reasons I'm coming here. No matter what they are doing here, they should not forget their father. It is not all that easy to manage the village within this period of social unrest.
Your Majesty, before you tell us a little more about your presence in Douala, I want you to make a comment on this issue that's been in the debates as far as the traditional administration is concerned. The issue of the fact that the traditional administration, not all, have been politicized. Some funds who are now belonging to some political parties having political inclinations that go a long way to divide their people and even make it much more difficult for them to be in the midst of their people like you are.
Babila, let me make this thing very clear. There have been misconceptions. Before being a fund, I am an individual. I have a right of choice. I can belong where I belong. But it becomes bad when I take this baton of command to persuade my people and tell them that you must belong to this instead of this. If you get a history of my late father, Fona Wemu II, that was one of the most favored traditional ruler when politics is concerned. When he was alive, the two main contestants in the village were Professor Betty and Honorable Bujum. When there is campaign, he invites them and put the podium in the palace and supervises it. He is the MC. And say, climb, tell my people why you want people to vote for you. And gives time, he leaves. He calls the other person. The person goes on podium and speaks the same. He now tells his people, you have heard from the horse's mouth. Go and sleep and meditate. Which one will you vote? What I want is peace in my village. Don't point accusing finger to anybody who did not vote you. Everybody has a right to choose any party. And the next day, he sent his notables to go around the village to maintain that peace. You have never heard of destruction as a result of aftermath of an election in Bambili. Elsewhere you hear. Because, as I've said, Bambili was set a peace-loving land right from our ancestors. So when they accuse the phones, it may be misinterpretation. It may be my colleagues don't handle the situation well. One time in Sierra TV, Bamenda, I made it very clear. The traditional look have been styled street beggars. Why? Why do elites allow their phone to be street beggars? Elites have that duty of care towards their father, the phone. It's a question as a born child, you come to the palace, help your father, children in the palace, how many of them, how does he live, how does his outfit, how does he even get the means to run the car, how does he even move to run errands of the village. Let elites come. But in some areas, my colleagues are unfortunate. But the few elites who belong to party XY, when they come, what do you expect them to do? That devil, that money, they are tempted. And when they take, what next? They might not know how to talk. If you don't talk, those people think that you have deceived them. You must go out on campaign. You must wear the uniform to tell the people you belong. And that is where they fall apart with their traditional ruler.
Which shouldn't be so.
It shouldn't be so.
There has been some, what has been qualified as misunderstanding between the people of Bambili and neighboring Quen. What is the issue? Can you tell us more about that?
Mr. Bablia, I want to thank you. You come from Northwest, and I'm happy. At least you should be able to know. Before I even get into explaining, there is nothing I can go in air with explaining. There have been no issue between Bambili and Quen. Historically, these are two villages who are bound to live in love. There are many things we do in common. Not for fortune today, from the past forms. There are intertribal marriages. There are Quen children who are married to Bambili. There are Bambili married to Quen. We do, when people cross Bambili and ask for farm to work farm, Bambili does the same. Quen children are schooling. Bambili children are resident in Quen, doing business. If we start misunderstanding, where shall we end? And they misunderstand because of what? Soil, vanity. Who shall die to take away soil elsewhere? What is it that they cannot sit and dialogue? The problem had been existing, but the facts are clear. The facts are clear. Recently, about how many houses were destroyed in Bambili? My people were left homeless. Some were attacked, but I made it categorically clear to my people. Even if they come in and kill this, your phone, my people should never take arms against Quen. They should never step their legs in Quen to revenge the destruction. We're in a country, a state of law, and I believe in that. Cameroon has laws. Leave it. We plead for the government to intervene with this matter and find who is fighting for against what. And I want to thank the administration of Mezam. Even got to this level because there was some laxity But when they stood up and realized that the thing was escalating at a certain time, they came in. But then, there are still that provocation. But I want to use this media to make it abundantly clear. I will tell my children when I meet them, we can never go to war, no matter the gravity of the problems with Nkwen. And that is their father, the father of my present colleague, plus my father. That's how they live. They were misunderstanding. But you hardly see them picking arms. You hardly see them coming to destroy. The present region is just a continuation of what is happening in Northwest. That power can solve, give solution to your problems. But Bambili is not for that. Cameroon is a state of law. I want to follow it strictly. And I still use this media. There is no way a Bambili man will take up arms to fight Nkwen, because we are brothers, whether by destiny or by blood, and will remain that way till the kingdom come.
Your Majesty, I just wish that you look at this camera right in front of you and talk to your subjects. And as a father that you are, as a traditional authority that you are, also speak to your children, because even the subjects of the phone of Nkwen are still your children. Now, I want you to look at this camera and send a clear message to your children on both sides.
I still maintain what I had said and what I'll continue to say in the village. Two people living together, they are bound to be misunderstanding. And that misunderstanding solution can only come through dialogue. No matter the gravity of the problem. This issue of fighting, I know Bamenda is becoming a cosmopolitan town. Land grabbing, the price of land has got to a certain level where people can use unorthodox means to get land in the name of sell. But I tell both my children, Nkwen and Bambili, that love that had been existing between these two villages, no individual, no group of persons shall come to put these two villages apart. Land fighting, is that what is important? We have a common problem in Norway, this social unrest, which is tearing us apart. Two brothers cannot again to put in another issue. And if not by the grace of God, this issue I'm talking now would have been counting souls if I did not ask my subjects to withdraw from going there. Whoever, which I've tried to talk with my colleague Nkwen to identify these problems. Who are these people creating problems between Nkwen and Bambili? I've tried to talk, but I'll continue to talk. Let me use this media to tell the people Nkwen and Bambili are blood children. They live together. Whoever is behind the screen, let me take this opportunity and ask the person. Power will not take us anywhere. Let's sit down, look each other, dialogue and talk and find a solution between this small piece of land where we are tearing ourselves for it.
We're going to take some interviews. When we come back, we'll talk more about the visit of the phone of Bambili in Douala. He's meeting his people who are in the country's economic capital. Stay with us. We'll be right back in a moment.
CDC workers could not come to the plantations, but certain persons with sinister motives had access to the plantations and realized their sinister projects. They destroyed before establishing. We too have to establish. So if it means destroying, it's a possible outcome. It is a fight for survival. The armed forces has been given clear directives to stand by CDC, to support CDC in this fight, to stand back on her feet On our side, what we need is determination, and the resolve on the side of management is not compromisable. The gendarmerie, to the best of my knowledge, have not yet concluded their investigation. Let's wait and see what will come out of the gendarmerie investigation.
In Fako here, in Tian, smallholders cannot operate freely. The other aspect is labor. So many people this way have fled to other areas. Enough crop that is already ripe on the trees, and we cannot take them out. If we don't have the vehicles to carry them there, the crop will get rotten on the trees. You go to the mill, you cannot mill because those mills were destroyed. Present hike in prices of the inputs, be it fertilizer, herbicides that we use in keeping our plantations clean, and then boosting the production. The reduction of the planted areas too. Surrender of land has reduced the palms plantations very, very drastically. We've lost close to 5,000 hectares of oil palm through surrender. As the area is reducing, the production as well is reducing. Added to that, the palms are getting old. We have to replant. So if the areas of the younger palms have been reduced, the older palms will not give you the production the younger palms were supposed to give.
I can understand the reluctance to engage because many of them have invested their time and energy and efforts in mobilizing other citizens to advocate for democratic governance and have not seen the dividends of their efforts. And so part of that is understandable. But at the same time, they have to look at a case like Senegal and realize that effort does pay, and that you cannot afford to despair because then you're really giving away your future to people who have no democracy in them. So my message will be a message of encouragement, a message of hope, a message of determination, and better coordination. I realize that the beginning of this year has been extremely difficult for Cameroonians across the board. You know, some of them went to Côte d'Ivoire to witness the African Nations Cup, and they were astonished by the level of development that Côte d'Ivoire has attained in the past 2 or 3 decades. Now, I met with some of them in Senegal who went to observe the elections in Senegal, and they were astonished, completely blown away by how open political space is in Senegal, by the fact that Senegal could go through an election, and by 12 p.m. the same night of the elections, results were already being known and being announced without any journalists being harassed, without any radio station or television station being shut down. And by early morning, on Monday morning, candidates were already calling the winning candidate to congratulate him. And even the head of state called to congratulate even before the election management body announced the official result. And so my fellow compatriots who were in Senegal saw that and were shocked. So I can understand how people feel in Cameroon right now when they see the progress that is being made by other African countries, both in terms of economic development and political development. My message to them is that they cannot afford to despair. This is the time to work harder than ever before to make sure that we can come out of the current situation as a more democratic and a more open country in order to be able to galvanize ourselves and take ample advantage of all the opportunities that could present themselves, just given what we have in terms of human capital and natural resources, which unfortunately have not been put to the use of the greater good, of the public good all these years. So my message is a message of hope and inspiration and determination. Let no one despair, because the better days are not now, the better days are ahead of us. And to be able to accomplish them and achieve them, we have to continue to work in a very focused manner.
You're welcome back, Your Majesty. Tell us more about your visit to your people here in Douala.
I've come to meet my children in Douala probably on 3 main words. Preach peace. Preach reconciliation. Preach unity. And above all, preach development. The last word development cannot come when there is no peace, there is no love. These social unrest have kept my children apart. A lot of hatred, as I earlier said, blackmail, lies telling. And this thing, even right here in Douala, I don't know that they live in peace. They live in love. They live in unity. And despite all the odds, we should not forget where we were born. Come home and support your father. Let's develop our land. Development, as I say, we need roads. We need potable water, which all those government schools, institutions that the head of state has given. But I seize the opportunity to thank my elites for my 4 years, even if I have not achieved anything at home. We got a giant water project with millions of money have been put in. The situation in Bambili has been improved. And I'm sure in course of time, every corner in Bambili will be able to have potable water. We need good roads. We need rural electrification. We need harmony. We need our children to live like the children of one father. If we know the anthem of Bambili and follow it up, we should live like children of one phone. They come home, we promote our culture and tradition. This thing has taught our children the common dialect, which is the basis of our culture. So my children came here, said, I was greeting in the dialect. They were responding in English. Is that not the loss of our identity? So let's get back. And above all, as I earlier told you, agriculture is the basis of my people's source of living. We have farm to work. My people are abandoned. You imagine the way they are living here, they should come back. Let's embrace agriculture and produce food.
About development, Your Majesty, your sons and daughters here in Douala have decided to put their hands on deck, to put their hands in one basket in fundraising for developmental endeavors back home. And it starts this Sunday, but should continue even after this Sunday. I wanted to address your people with regards to this initiative that is expected to mobilize everyone on board, to mobilize financial resources, to bring about development, to bring about some of those things, some of those needs, some of those social needs that are needed to improve life in general within the community of Bambili.
Traditionally, when a funds visits the children know very well that our father cannot come back and go back. I think my main focus here was not for fundraising. They themselves have thought that our father cannot come here and go back. But if you want to talk of developmental projects in the village, they are countless. The most challenging, we have an upcoming event which involves every son and daughter of the village. 2 funds have traveled in Bambili, and by our right, we need to celebrate those people because they were developers. If you trace the history of these 2 funds, they were people who left their mark, the science of time. And no matter what it is, the village must come out like one body and celebrate the life of these people. And to celebrate the life of 2 funds is not a child's play. And before it comes, there are issues where we must do in the village. This is one of the challenges I'll tell my children tomorrow. We must give a first lift to the palace. These 2 funds, the houses, the aquifers and everything, there were these 2 funds. They are outuse their usefulness in the modern context. We need a modern palace before such an event comes up. I'll give you an assignment to them. Say in Douala, the fund has his representative, the name of Minang Joseph Ngufi. He has to work hand in glove with the president of the Mbekuda, the Bambili Cultural and Development Association. I'll throw the challenge to them and go back. They will sit and tell me how. I'm just a coordinator, a caretaker of their palace. The palace is not owned by me. It's not owned by me. It's their palace. Any right-thinking child should be able to identify himself that he comes from a rich background. And when those friends come and see your palace, can you talk anywhere? Because the palace speaks loud. So I'll throw it back to them. Those developmental projects before these two heroes to celebrate their life, first lived in the palace. It's a big challenge. Maybe they will start tomorrow. Whatever things they raised, they'll send me back and start the development. And those events will come up depending on how they galvanize themselves and come up for us to play. It's a load for every son and daughter of the village. It's not only for the fun. But I'm here to tell them the pitfalls if we don't celebrate these two people. So that is first developmental project. As I rightly said, my mission here is not to come and organize fun. Maybe when I go back, this event come up, they put their finger. A giant fundraising, maybe to finish the hall, finish the areas of the women in the palace, finish even the funds chambers. Before this event come up, I will come up now where Babylon will be the chairman. You will tell your manager of the Equinoxe to gather all the money has coming to come and help my children here in Douala. So I came. This one will be a pleasant surprise, the fundraising. But I said my main mission here to reconcile my children to each other. Since my enthronement, I've never had the opportunity to meet them. Some of them don't even know me personally. Definitely some of them have negative story about Fuafutri. Some of them have positive. But they say when you fear, when you want to, when you fear somebody and stay away from him, you're causing more harm. Go closer to the person, listen what the person to see whether the idea you have about the person is it right thinking, but from what he says, from what he's talking. This is my mission. I've come to unveil myself to my children. Let them know me and say bygones are bygones. Things are going. The peace which we're working hard is gradually coming to the village. We cannot all be folding our hands. Let them come back. Assist me.
Some of them are IDPs. Some of them are people who were forced out of their homes as a result of the violence, and they are seeking refuge here in Douala.
Good. That is it. We cannot be living, me like the father, to see my children like remaining in Douala here like refugees. Let them come back home. Bambili, as I've said, was a naturally created village. There is everything in Bambili. Only a lazy person will sit and cry hungry in Bambili.
Earlier you said that your predecessor often came out during elections to advise the people not to be passive, but to be active, to perform their civic duty of voting whoever they choose to vote. And today, what we are observing is that many Cameroonians in general, even including especially young people, are passive. They don't care about, they have become discouraged, they are disappointed with their leaders, they don't want to go register, they don't want to vote, they don't want to do anything because they feel like nothing is going to change. Now, recently, a young person came to power in Senegal. You must have heard that in the news. Bassirou Diomaye Faye, 44 years, who is now the leader, the president of Senegal. And this is seen as an inspiration to young people in Cameroon to be active in politics, to aspire to become leaders, to take part in the political life of their country, to register, to vote. Elections are coming up next year. I want you to address the young people of Bambili, the young people of Cameroon in general, with regards to this perspective.
Well, I want to thank you to make it clear, Babila, it is true. The common adage, let the young grow. Not so. Senegal has taken its part and gone. It will be a big thing for the youth in Cameroon to go. But they should go according to the inspiration. Because this thing they often say, imitation leads to danger. Let me come back to sports. You know, I have passions for sports. When the present committee of FECAFOOT came up, we don't want to see a foreign coach. We want an indigene to coach our team. Everybody was excited. You, Babila, I know you like sports. What became the story? The Bafia dance is dancing in FECAFOOT. Are you getting it? If the youth have been inspired and somebody have that age naturally, and the divine hand is there urging him, don't go because you want to imitate. Don't go because you want to imitate. I'm not saying that the youth should be discouraged and stay. What we can cry, the talk has been malpractices, electoral code not being respected. I know the government. If you think where they started, there was a president will have a lekam also. Before Elekam was what? One. Before One was what? They are also seeing what the population is crying and making efforts. We want transparent boxes. They are there, not so? Voila. There is improvement. We should not run faster than our shadow, but I'm not saying that we should stand on one spot. But this issue of seeing that what happened there should equally happen to me. Imitation leads to danger. I'm not saying that the youth should be discouraged. It will be a pride for me to see my young, one of my elites, to stand up, to contest the post of the head of state. It will be pride for me, pride for Northwest, the youth, a young person from Northwest should do. But we should do it divinely. We should not be quoting issue. I've quoted the example of the football. Where are we? It is true. So let the laws be clear. Let the government make the law clear. And let anybody honestly play his role. Put your one ballot, go and wait for result. People counting should call a spade a spade. People of constitutional committee counting the vote should speak the truth and come out. Let's give the right person democratically to run this country.
Your Majesty, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for talking to us.
Thank you, Mr. Babila. What we are currently facing in Cameroon, you see, life is full of challenges. Life is not a bed of roses. What I tell people, as I was telling you, Bambili is blessed. It doesn't mean that we should fold our hands and don't work for the peace in Bambili and we think that God will come up to install peace. We are working hard. What you experience in Bambili, my traditional colleagues, the quarter heads, the heads of the organs, internal and external elites, we work hand in gloves to maintain what it is in Bambili. We should stand up and stop sitting on one spot to complain. And to the government, we know it is true. When your child is crying, don't only pick the wheat. Have a listening ear and talk with the children. And to my children who are still getting annoyed, they have got annoyed. The consequences have been there. And I take this opportunity to launch this appeal again. It is not war that will be able to seek our solutions here in this country. Let's make our point clear. Talk the people who fear God and let's sit on the table and talk and see how we can find solutions. And to my children in Douala, they should live in harmony. Respect the traditional and administrative authorities of Douala. They should live as if Douala is Bambili. Love should move not only among themselves as Bambili, but among those of them who interact.
His Royal Majesty Ifo AFUNGCHWI III of Bambili. That's it for today's edition of The Insight. Thank you so much for staying with us. You can follow the program on social media platforms, Facebook and YouTube. You can also follow the rebroadcast of the program on Friday at 5 p.m. That's it for today. Goodbye.